For decades, she was a ghost story walking, the solemn princess of a fallen king, living out her life in the long, inescapable shadow of Graceland. Lisa Marie Presley was a headline, a mystery, a tragedy in slow motion. We saw the high profile, marriages, the public struggles, and the devastating losses that would have broken anyone. But we never truly knew the depth of the pain she carried. Then, at 54, she was gone. And in the silence that followed, a final, heartbreaking truth began to emerge. It wasn't in a single interview or a planned confession. Instead, the final admission of what she endured is written into the very fabric of her life and death. Before she passed, Lisa Marie had begun the process of telling her own story, leaving behind recorded tapes for her daughter, actress Riley Keough, to one day share. The story that has since come to light reveals what many of us always suspected, that behind the gates of Graceland and under the crushing weight of the Presley name, Lisa Marie was fighting a battle that was quietly and tragically unwinnable. The story isn't just about the secrets she kept, but about the one truth that was hiding in plain sight. It's a truth that goes far beyond what any doctor would write on an autopsy report. In the wake of her death, her daughter Riley Keough spoke of her mother's immense pain following the loss of her son Benjamin. While her mother physically died from the after effects of a surgery, Riley has said the family knew she was contending with a broken heart. This is the story of that broken heart, how it shattered, and how a daughter's love is ensuring her mother's real story is finally told. On January 12, 2023, the world was stunned by the news. Lisa Marie Presley was dead at just 54 years old. She had been seen only 2 days earlier at the Golden Globe Awards, celebrating Austin Butler's win for his portrayal of her father. She seemed frail, but she was there, making it feel almost impossible that she could just be gone. Initial reports cited cardiac arrest, a chilling echo of her father's own demise at 42. For months, speculation ran rampant. But the final truth, when it came, is both more clinical and more heartbreaking. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's report, released in July 2023, delivered the facts. Lisa Marie Presley died from a sequelae of small bowel obstruction. In layman's terms, was a blockage in her small intestine caused by adhesion scar tissue that had formed after a bariatric, or weight loss, surgery she had undergone years prior. The report noted that while she had therapeutic levels of opioids in her system from a recent cosmetic procedure, they did not contribute to her death. The manner of death was ruled natural. But for those who had watched Lisa Marie's life, the word natural felt jarring. There was nothing natural about the immense pressure she lived under, a pressure that undoubtedly contributed to her decision to have such a surgery in the first place. For a woman who had been judged by her appearance since birth, the daughter of a man whose image was one of the most famous on the planet it was a decision likely born from a lifetime of scrutiny. This wasn't just a medical complication. It was the physical manifestation of a psychological war she had been waging for 50 years. The scar tissue that ultimately ended her life was a grim testament to the internal wounds no one could see. The damage from a life spent trying to measure up to an impossible legacy. Her death, therefore, became an undeniable confirmation that the immense weight of her life, the grief and the constant public eye had taken a physical toll so severe that her body had finally given out. To understand Lisa Marie, you have to understand Graceland, not just the tourist attraction, but the home where a 9-year-old girl lost her entire world. When Elvis Presley died on August 16, 1977, Graceland transformed overnight from a home into a mausoleum. Lisa Marie was there. She was the one who saw her father in his coffin, the one who suddenly became the living relic of a dead king. From that day forward, her identity was fractured. She was a child grieving her father, but she was also a public symbol. Every move she made was compared to him. Her looks, her voice, her choices, everything was held up against the ghost of the king. She lived in a gilded cage, 13.8-acre property that was both a sanctuary and a prison. been reported that even as an adult, she would return to Graceland to feel close to her father, using the perfectly preserved upstairs quarters as a portal to connect with the one person who might have understood the bizarre reality of her life. Her childhood was a study in contrasts. After her parents' divorce, she split her time between the chaotic wonderland of Graceland and a more conventional life with her mother, Priscilla, in Los Angeles. But even there, she wasn't free. As she grew, that pressure cooker of fame and unresolved grief began to boil over. This set the stage for a lifetime of searching for an escape. She sought it in music, releasing 3 critically respected albums that could never fully fly free of her father's shadow. She sought it in love, through for high-profile and tumultuous marriages. And most dangerously, she sought it in substances. Her struggles with addiction weren't just a rock and roll cliché. They were a direct attempt to numb the relentless pain of her existence. This was the weight of her legacy, an inheritance of fame, fortune, and a profound, unshakable sorrow for years. Lisa Marie Presley's life was defined by tabloid headlines. We thought we knew her story. But her own words, spoken in interviews over the years and in raw, honest essays, paint a much different picture. The truth about Michael Jackson of all her public relationships. The 20-month marriage to Michael Jackson in 1994 remains the most debated. To the world, it looked like a bizarre union of 2 pop culture dynasties. The public narrative was cynical, suggesting it was a calculated move to deflect from the allegations engulfing Jackson at the time. But Lisa Marie always told a different story. In interviews, she described a genuine, if complex, connection. She saw a man-child whose surreal fame mirrored her own and felt a deep need to save him. She insisted their relationship was real, telling Diane Sawyer in a 1995 interview, "I'm not going to marry somebody for any reason other than the fact that I've fallen in love with them." It wasn't about strategy. It was about a profound and perhaps misguided empathy for a soul she believed was as damaged as her own. A grief that never healed the defining tragedy of Lisa Marie's later years, the one from which she would never recover, was the death of her son, Benjamin Keough. In July 2020, at 27, Benjamin died by suicide. His death didn't just break her heart, it destroyed her. She wrote about it in a powerful essay for People magazine in 2022, a piece of writing that now feels like a premonition. "Grief is something you will have to carry with you for the rest of your life," she wrote. "It does not stop or go away in any sense. You do not get over it. You do not move on, period." She confessed that she battled with blaming herself every single day. Pain was so suffocating that she admitted she only kept going for her 3 daughters, Riley, and her young twins, Finley and Harper. For many, including her own family, the immense stress of this chronic, unresolved grief physically consumed her, contributing to the health decline that led to her death. The war against her own image, the final quiet truth that threads through Lisa Marie's entire life story is the war she waged against her own body. From a young age, her physical appearance was public property. She was the daughter of Priscilla and the iconic Elvis, and the media tracked her weight and appearance with relentless focus. This scrutiny led to a desperate, lifelong quest for control. The decision to undergo bariatric surgery, the procedure that would ultimately lead to her death, was the culmination of this battle. It was a drastic measure taken years ago, a silent struggle undertaken away from the public eye. Her final public appearance at the Golden Globes was a stark illustration of this. The world saw a woman who looked unwell, but they couldn't know the specifics. They didn't know about the ticking time bomb of scar tissue inside her. Her death, caused by a known long-term complication of this type of surgery, was the tragic finale to this war. It was proof that the pressure to live up to the Presley image had fatal consequences. When Lisa Marie Presley died, She left behind hours of recorded tapes and an unfinished story. And she left behind a daughter, Riley Keough, who had made her a promise. Before her death, Lisa Marie had asked Riley to help her finish her memoir. It was a task that went from a collaborative effort to a sacred duty overnight. Riley's role in this final chapter is one of profound love and emotional archaeology. She spent countless hours listening to her mother's voice on those tapes, reliving her joys and her deepest pains. In a statement, she said, "I was lucky to have had that opportunity, and working on preparing her autobiography for publication has been a privilege, albeit a bittersweet one." This wasn't the only burden Riley inherited. In the aftermath of her mother's death, she became the sole trustee of the Presley estate, a role she took on after a legal dispute with her grandmother, Priscilla, was resolved at her mother's public memorial service at Graceland. It was Riley's words, read by her husband, that provided the most poignant tribute. In a letter to her mama, she wrote, "Thank you for giving me strength, my heart, my empathy, my courage, my sense of humor. I am a product of your heart." In that same tribute, she revealed a secret of her own that she and her husband had: a daughter, making Lisa Marie a grandmother before she passed. Finishing the memoir, titled From Here to the Great Unknown, became the ultimate fulfillment of her role as a daughter. She wasn't just protecting a legacy. She was clarifying it, ensuring the world finally heard her mother's story. In her mother's own voice, the story of Lisa Marie Presley is not a simple one. It's a tangled narrative of immense privilege and unbearable pain. For years, the world tried to write her story for her, casting her in roles she never asked for. But through her own words, left behind on tapes and in essays and the tragic facts of her death, she has finally written her own ending. Her life confirms what we all suspected, that the tragedies were deeper and the pain was sharper than any headline could convey. It reveals that her entire life was an act of survival against the crushing weight of grief and expectation. Her death was not a sudden, isolated event, but the final, inevitable conclusion to a story of a heart that had been broken one too many times. Lisa Marie's final admission was not one of weakness, but of a quiet, desperate humanity. Her legacy, now shaped by her own words and curated by her daughter's love, is one of brutal honesty and heartbreaking resilience. She was the keeper of the Presley flame, and in the end, seemed the flame consumed her. What part of Lisa Marie's story resonates with you the most? Her life was a complex tapestry of love, loss, and the search for peace. Share your thoughts and memories in the comments below. Let's remember the woman behind the headlines.